all, this is Christina Vidari, and I am going to walk you through my presentation for the literature review on teacher home visits. Here we have the abstract, and as you can see, this review is intended to see how effective teacher home visits can help solve the disconnection between home and school. A large focus comes from teacher point of views and also from evidence that home visits foster academic success. Again, here is the purpose statement. So if you go through my method, you can see the databases, the keywords, other limiters that I used, such as Boolean operators, requiring peer-reviewed journals, and then of the 21 hits that came up, I was able to narrow it down by criteria. This graph will show you the criteria I had, and I was able to come across 6 usable articles, and I also used 2 additional articles in my literature review. They didn't quite fit my criteria, but they were full of very beneficial information. So we have the first one by Stetson, Sinclair, and Nix, 2012, Home Visits, Teacher Reflections About Relationships, Student Behavior, and Achievement. It was interesting because these teachers were actually required to do home visit as part of an assignment in a course for a master's program at a local university. So these teachers did not actually teach at the same schools, but they taught within the same urban school districts in North Texas. As you can see, the results were overwhelmingly positive. They were essentially setting out to see if home visits are a good tool to use in an outreach program to improve relationships. This study also highlighted the need for more support from teachers, administrators, and policymakers at the state and national levels. We move on to the one by Meyer and Mann, 2006, Teachers' Perceptions of the Benefits of Home Visits for Early Elementary Children. This one also focused on the teachers' perceptions of benefits of home visits. The teachers in this study were actually required to seek out home visits for every single student in their class. They were able to get 76% of the students to participate in a home visit, which allowed them to be able to compare data against those not visited. And as you can see, the results were positive again. You'll notice that 54% perceived increase in student success. Teachers had difficulty reporting that because there was no factual evidence that proved student success increased. But 54 of the teachers felt that their success rates had increased. So this was actually a very interesting study that allowed us to see the perceptions teachers have about benefits students get from home visits. And it also mentions the need for more support. This next one by Meyer, Mann, and Becker, 2011, 5-year follow-up, Teachers' Perceptions of the Benefits of Home Visits for Early Elementary Children. This is done by 2 of the original researchers from the previous study we just talked about, 5 years later. So they were able to get 29 teachers, but 17 of them had participated in the previous study. And with that, they were able to, everything was pretty much the same. The structure of the study was essentially the same. And again, they were able to determine that teachers do still feel positively about the impact of home visits on student success. And again, since it was from 2 of the same researchers, they talked about needing more support and consistency from administrative, local, and state levels. From Tavares, 1998, Home Visits from the Teacher's Perspective. This one focused on the effectiveness of home visits from teachers' perspectives, but they were also concerned about how seriously respondents take the home visits. These were randomly selected teachers from New York City, and the results were not great, mostly because the teachers felt that they just didn't need to participate. It was not a requirement, and they had a lot of concerns. Some were concerned with safety and time constraints, while others even went as far as to say it was an invasion of privacy, which I do not agree with. But of the participating teachers, the researcher was able to come up with results that did show positive benefits from conducting home visits. Even though some of the participating teachers were reacting negatively towards this study, the findings still indicate that the participating teachers perceived home visits were effective, an effective tool in bridging that gap. Unfortunately, again, the research highlights that there's lack of support from fellow teachers and administration, and that, unfortunately, home visits are not taken seriously. Waters, 2001, the home visits program at an elementary school in California, a summative evaluation. This school was actually awarded a grant for research on home visits to encourage teachers to focus on the importance of family and school collaboration. So you could see how they conducted the study, but unfortunately the results were inconclusive because the teachers just didn't participate. A lot of the data was collected, through questionnaires, interviews, and personal communications, but I think only 38%, yes, 38% of the teachers participated. The organization of the data was not great. The response rate was low overall. There was just a total lack of concern, really, from this principal. The researcher stated that even though the school was awarded a grant, the principal just felt like it was not necessary to take home visits seriously. So the few teachers that were interested in home visits, they were able to show that they felt positive things. Again, there was no quantitative data to back up their perceptions of improved test scores or other areas related to student success. But teachers still need support, and more research is needed. And then Marcon, 1999, the impact of parent involvement on children's development and academic performance, a 3-cohort study. This was an interesting study because they were essentially concerned with how much involvement is enough to help student success. So they took these 708 preschoolers and divided them up into 3 groups based on high or low parent involvement, and they were able to compare student success rates. They actually had behavior scales, progress reports, GPAs. So they had qualitative and quantitative data to back up their comparisons between high involvement parents and low involved parents, and then the success rates of their students. The data showed that even minimal parent involvement really contributes to academic performance. Although it was really interesting while reading this article to try to consider how much involvement is enough. So from the studies, it's clear that the impact of effective teacher home visits is undoubtedly positive, especially from firsthand accounts. Not only do home visits appear to help solve the disconnection between home and school, but they also promote academic success, relationships, behaviors, attitudes. The downside was that there's little support is provided for teachers to be able to perform the home visits, despite the plethora of research that's out there highlighting the positives of home visits. It was disappointing to also learn about the negative teacher attitudes due to personal anxieties or concerns of time constraints. Evidence does illustrate the positives, but yet there's just little motivation or support. So some of the limitations that I came across, the biggest one was coming across articles that were based on facts rather than personal accounts. I really was hoping to find something that proved student scores go up when home visits are implemented. I believe there are articles out there, but due to other restrictions listed, like database and time, I was unable to obtain those. My recommendation, however, is to go out there and perform visits, home visits on your own. If your school doesn't require it, find guidelines, find support, do whatever you need to do to perform a home visit at least once a year. It will greatly impact the success rates of your students. So the question was, can effective teacher home visits help solve the disconnection between school and home to foster academic success? Yes. From a teacher's perspective, the benefits of home visits will greatly outweigh the concerns, as evidenced in this review. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your summer.